might not be the first to review him, in fact I actually might be the last, but today I'm kicking off a multi-part deep dive into the all-new Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man. I'm also giving one away to one lucky subscriber. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. My first Spider-Man figure was Secret Wars by Mattel. It's just a basic figure with 5 points of articulation and pretty simplistic webbing. I loved this figure, but it wasn't the Spider-Man of my childhood. This was the Marvel Superheroes Super Posable Spider-Man by Toy Biz. Not only was it the most articulated action figure I'd owned at that point, the proportions were closest to what I saw in the comic, and all those web details were way more advanced. For me, this set the standard and became the high I've been chasing ever since. Surely this figure will scratch that itch. Starting with the packaging, and Maximum Spider-Man comes in an extra wide window box. An extra wide window box that in no way should remind you of a Mafex. The fact that it has 3 of the 5 letters of Mafex is completely coincidental. Still, it does do a good job of showing off the accessories, and oh, what treasures we're in for. You know what this box doesn't have though? A teddy bear who just heard his dad say, "This is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you." Similar to a Mafex, and we do get figure photography on the spines, which gives you an idea of some of the features. The line work has been spot varnished for a really cool effect. I think this is only going to be in stores like GameStop, so with that being the case, here's the UPC just in case. And then on the back is a larger than life and admittedly pretty impressive picture of Spider-Man. Derivative as it may be, for packaging, I'm giving Maximum Spider-Man a maximum 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and just a quick reminder that this category is all about what the figure looks like. At this stage of the game, I do not care about articulation and accessories and things like that. All I care about are the sculpted and painted details. First things first, a Maximum Spider-Man stands at 6 1/8 inches, or 15 1/4 centimeters. Canonically, Spider-Man is 5'10". I still think the height on Amazing Friends is perfect, but it is closer to his comic book height than, say, Renew Your Vows. That, however, is a conversation for their upcoming verses. For now, the important thing is that this figure is a 100% new sculpt. As near as I can tell, nothing has been reused. As such, we have pinless joints, and with it, the benefit of not having those big ugly red dots on the inner arm. Same thing with the knees, and while we're down here, notice the fabric tugs. Unlike most Spider-Man figures, which are just painted blank bodies, Hasbro was keen to add some strategic wrinkles. This is a very welcomed addition, and goes a long way to make it feel like an actual person in a costume. And that costume has been painted very well. There are a couple of spots of paint chipping, but for the most part it's all pretty clean. I'm not really a fan of the spider on his back. I honestly really think they could have gotten away with not having those red legs, but the spider logo on his chest is one of my favorites. This is still a mass-produced factory figure, so there will be some blemishes, but for the most part these are some of the cleanest webs I have seen on a Hasbro Spider-Man. I also like how tightly packed they are. That was one of my favorite things about the retro card Spidey, but this one is even better. The red of the stomach is slightly darker than the red of the chest, but stepping back you don't really notice it. In hand, it does feel like a normal Marvel Legend, by which I mean I'm not feeling any difference in the plastic. Leastways not as compared to something like Mafex, where you can really feel the difference. I don't personally find the limbs to be as gummy as some other figures. Overall, I guess I would say that whatever you can imagine the best quality Marvel Legends figure is, this is what that feels like. And as for whether or not it feels like that should be so much money, well, that's a conversation for price. As far as what the figure looks like, the only thing I really wish was different was the shade of blue. Going back to the Amazing Friends 3-pack, I really like this combo. I also dig the brighter blue of the Mafex, and while this is fine, I would like to see this exact same figure in those shades. Of course, now that they've spent the money on the tooling, I'm sure that we'll get around to seeing that. Lastly, and we have to zero in on this head. There's a reason why people are calling this the McFarlane Spider-Man, and it's all to do with these very large, very angular eyes. Obviously, Spider-Man's eyes are a matter of personal preference, but I do think Hasbro's captured them very well. The minorest of minor quibbles aside, for presentation, I'm giving Maximum Spider-Man 5 points. Moving on to Posability, and this might just be the most important important aspect of a Spider-Man action figure. From the top, and Spider-Man's head is on a ball joint and a disc swivel. He also has an additional ball joint at the base of the neck. In combination with the two, he can look up this high, which is perfect for Spidey. For contrast, here he is looking straight, and he can really bury the chin. Generally speaking, figures with this style of articulation don't really get much in the way of tilt, but thanks to the ball joint in the base of the neck, we do get that. Moving down, and Spidey's arm raise is well over 90 degrees, and he has complete rotation. Once again, we have forward and back thanks to butterfly joints. Those can bend in this far, and bend back this far. Traveling down the arm, and Spidey has bicep swivel, as well as pinless double jointed elbows with a perfect bend, and thanks to accessories we'll be talking about in Playability, he also has forearm swivel, and wrists that can swivel and hinge up this high, and this far down. Moving to the middle, and Spider-Man has a diaphragm joint and what I tend to call a reverse ab crunch. I call it that because while most ab crunches are up here and bend like this, these crunches are down here. I guess you could call it an upside down ab crunch. I've also heard it referred to as a U-joint. Either way, he can arch back this far, which is amazing, and hunch forward this far, which is spectacular. The diaphragm also gives him side-to-side tilt and also twist. Below the upside-down ab crunch, and Spider-Man has ball-jointed hips. They're also drop-down hinge. This affords a very impressive high kick. You can also kick back this far, and in Glenn Webb tradition can split this wide with both feet firmly on the floor. I'll have to check, but this might just be the deepest split I've seen from a Marvel Legend Spider-Man. Traveling down the leg, and Peter has thigh cut, and I will say with it being a darker blue, it doesn't really stand out that much. The knees are double jointed, pinless, and have a near perfect bend. Petey also has boot cut rotation, toe articulation, and ankles that can hinge, and like the main Spider-Man in a lot of people's displays now that this figure is out, pivot. Coming, I'm sure, as a surprise to no one, for Posability, Maximum Spider-Man gets 5 points. Moving on to Playability, and we have a lot of accessories to go over. Starting with hands, and Peter comes pre-packaged with a pair of fists, but he also has standard issue wall-crawling hands. Wall-crawling hands that for some reason are missing a lot of webbing, along with a pair of web-spinning thwip hands. Based on the curvature of the finger, I get the impression that these are actually newly sculpted. Leastways, I don't recognize them. Additionally, he has a thwip hand with a squirt of webbing shooting out. This is pretty creative and would make for some fun figure photography. Granted, they're not exactly coming out of the right spot. That would be closer to here. The irony is that this particular Spider-Man has interchangeable wrists, so they totally could have made a set of forearms where the webbing is coming out of the right spot. Not only that, but I contend it would have been cheaper. A lot of the cost of an action figure come down to the molds. Just this hand alone was 3 separate ones. The base hand, the wrist peg, and of course the web. Had it just been interchangeable forearms, they could have saved themselves a mold. What they did do, however, was give Peter these really cool ungloved forearms. They aren't articulated, but they do show off the mechanism of his web shooters. This has got to be one of my favorite additions. And if all that wasn't enough, Spidey also has a pair of accessory holding hands, and those hinge side to side. So then, what accessories might Spider-Man be holding? Well, for one thing, we have this web shield. This is an accessory I've been hoping for a long time, and I think Hasbro really nailed it. Not only are all the webs sculpted well, there's also some lifelike gaps in between, and also some extra paint detail. Flipping it around, it has a wrist clip like Captain America's shield, allowing you to fasten it to either arm. Now, the astute among you might realize that that's actually not an accessory that he can hold in these hands, and you're right. For that, we have to whip out these web lines. These perfectly recreate the spaghetti-style webbing of the McFarlane era onward, and are nice and soft. That being said, I was under the impression they were supposed to be bendy, so the fact that they aren't kind of bums me out. Now, if you wanted to do some web spinning, there are a couple of effects for that as well. First things first is this kind of splayed out net web. I do like all the crazy strands going around the base. There's also this web ball, which I'm gonna charitably joke looks like a ghost. A ghost. Now, you might be wondering how you're going to hold these up. Or not, if you've already seen other people's videos. Maximum Spidey comes with this extra stand. It kind of reminds me of the ones that come with the jaded toy Street Fighter figures. In concept, I think this is interesting, but in practice, I feel like I could have done without this. But we're not done yet, because in addition to this head we've been looking at, Spidey also comes with this one. Near as I can tell, it's the exact same head, with one eye slightly squinting for dramatic effect. Not gonna lie, I don't entirely see the point point of this. If you wanted to give him a really drastic expression, that would be one thing, something a bit more like Humberto Ramos. And maybe that's what they're going for, but it doesn't really translate. As is, and it's less Spider-Man and more Snow White. If they were going to give him an alternate head, I wish they would have given him the rounder eyes of Mark Bagley or Eric Larson. That still would have fit perfectly with the 90s theme. This segues nicely to the most controversial accessory, the alternate Peter Parker head. This has been a pretty hot topic of discussion, and I totally understand why. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds over whether or not this looks like a Todd McFarlane style Peter Parker or not, mainly because Todd McFarlane's Peter isn't the most consistent. At the very least, though, the hair should be bigger. I will say it's painted nicely, and the eyes in particular are very crisp, but he's also staring into my soul in a way that kind of makes me uncomfortable. I think I just need to sit with it for a while. One thing I know I like, however, is this spider sense effect. It presses on like so, and can fit Pizza Spidey. It fits on Ultimate. Good to go on the retro card. You gotta push it a bit forward on Renew Your Vows, but it can be done. Amazing Friends 3-pack is amazing, and no trouble with animated as long as you push it forward. I have heard criticisms that the wave should be yellow, and I totally think that would look great, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with this. And having sat with this a little bit longer, no, I don't think I like it. As well packed as this Peter Parker may be, playability is more than just accessories. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. That said, there are so many comparisons I want to make that they're going to take up a video of their very own. For the purpose of this review, I'm focusing on other figures of Spider-Man. Like I said at the start, my action figure introduction to Spider-Man was the 1984 Secret Wars figure, but in 1990 the brand was taken over by the fledgling company Toy Biz. After a rough start, they gave us this figure in 1992, setting the standard for me moving forward. The next important Spider-Man wouldn't come along, however, until 1994 and the animated series. That one got a superposable option also, though again it didn't quite hit the spot like the original. By 1996, Toy Biz was doing a much better job with Spider-Man's proportions and making ankle hinge a standard. 1997 saw the next major leap with Web Trap Spider-Man. This figure gave us etched-in webbings and a wash to bring those web details out. Over the course of the next couple of years, they would tinker with things like ball-jointed shoulders or hips, as seen in this Mike Wieringo-inspired Spidey Sense Spider-Man. But the next major milestone came in 2001 with Spider-Man Classic. This combined the etched-in webbings with super posability, including, for the first time in Spider-Man, double elbow, double knee, thigh cut, boot cut, and toe-ticulation. While not a comic figure, the 2002 Spider-Man movie figure is also pretty significant. In addition to all the previous joints, this one gave Spider-Man bicep swivel and separate joints for the base of the neck and the base of the skull. Toy Biz would continue to expand on their engineering, this body style being one of Toy Biz's most popular Spideys. Towards the end, though, I think they flew a bit too close to the sun. Hasbro then took over the line, and admittedly their early offerings were pretty rough. A lot of them were just older Toy Biz figures that were retooled and streamlined. The next big leap would be the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014. This one updated the engineering and served as the blueprint for what was to come, 2015's Pizza Spidey. For years this was the gold standard, and a lot of Spidey variants came from it. Ultimate Spider-Man came next, which was shrunk down and a little bit less articulated, even though that Pizza Spidey body endured until 2020's retro card. This was the first Marvel Legends Spider-Man to give us a diaphragm joint and upside-down ab crunch, and then in 2021 Hasbro gave a Zombie Hunter Spider-Man from Marvel's What If. You might not think it's significant, but it's actually Hasbro's first swing at double-jointed, pinless elbows on a Spider-Man figure. That brings us to 2022's Renew Your Vows. The new gold standard, this one had all the updated engineering of retro card, along with pinless knees and elbows. I do think there's a special conversation to be had about the Japanese Spider-Man. It came out right after Renew Your Vows and was also double pinless, but most importantly it had fabric tugs and looked like a cloth costume and not just a painted body. Next came the Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends 3-pack. This figure was based off the Amazing Fantasy 15 body mold and is one of my favorite Spideys. Finally for Hasbro is the Spider-Man Animated Series Vulture 2-pack. This figure has lots of great accessories and a bright color scheme all on the Sunfire body. For many collectors, Mafex is the definitive option. There's also the oversized 7-inch scale Marvel Select Spectacular Spider-Man to consider, and I'm going to be pitting him against Mafex to see which one's going to go up against Maximum Spider-Man in a versus of their very own. Back to Maximum Spider-Man though, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. For those hoping for head swaps, there are so many I want to do that they're getting their own video. Otherwise, I'm mostly happy with all the accessories he comes with. Some don't do anything for me, some could have been done better, and others feel like missed opportunities, but all the hands are great, and there are some fun new additions. Not perfect, but for playability, I'm giving Maximum Spider-Man a good 4 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. When we heard this was going to be $50, a lot of us choked, wondering if the value was really going to be there. Is this really worth the price of 2 whole figures? With so many of the accessories being disappointing or unnecessary, I can't say that I think it is. The problem is that even if you do think it's worth it, it's really hard to get a hold of. That's why I'm giving one away to one lucky subscriber. The best part is that this giveaway is open to everyone worldwide. This giveaway is not sponsored by Hasbro, Marvel, YouTube, or anyone else. I'm just trying to share the love. To enter, you've got to be a subscriber, and you've got to comment below and let me know that you want it. Please though, only 1 entry per account. Deadline to enter is Friday, June 6th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The winner will be announced on Sunday, June 8th in my Maximum Spider-Man Versus video. Until that Versus happens though, for price, I'm giving Maximum Spider-Man an okay 3 points, averaging out to a still pretty good total of 4.4 out of 5. Agree? Disagree? Sound off in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss part 2 of my Maximum Spider-Man deep dive. For more Spidey while you wait, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.